Hello, everyone. Hello, Lori Dovey. How are you?
Hello, Veronica.
Lori emerging from a stroke, but actually, we are all constantly in a state of rebirth. And we want to talk today about if we say we're constantly in a state of rebirth, it actually includes a medium called consciousness. And it is moving all over the world as far as I can figure out. And Lori's been listening to some of the information that Terry Gross has been putting up. I love Terry Gross.
From
And
Fresh
about
Air. Yeah.
consciousness. Yeah, and I had been thinking today on the way here, because I go off and write and then I'm walking back, getting ready. And I'm going, well, are we going to, there are so many healers, there are so many different modes of healing going on all over the world.
Hmm.
Some of them are really old. And some of them are brand new, and young people have a very different attitude to all that than we did. They make assumptions about it. It's that for some of us, it was breaking the uh, the edges of it so we could figure out what was going on and become a part of it. But I'm wondering, I would love to talk to you, Lori, but also talk to Mira Chris about whether there's a movement. This is what I'm hoping it is, that there's a movement of consciousness going on through humanity, whether you're right, left, or center, that there is a movement pushing up, and many resist it like mad, and we know why. It's like religion, you resist a lot until you're ready for it. But I just would love to hear what they have to say. And then Lori said she wants to talk a bit about consciousness because she's listening to, I can't remember the name of the group you're listening to right now.
No, it's a gentleman by the name of Michael Poulon who
Michael, what's the last name? You put your
Poulon,
hand.
Pollan.
Oh, okay.
Terry Gross is interviewing him. He's written books on psychedelics, and this latest book of his is exploring basically what is consciousness.
Good.
And it's a big topic, but we can certainly start with the evolutionary aspect of what you want to talk
That's
about.
just from my perspective. I'd love to talk about what is consciousness, you know.
Okay.
I call it the beingness a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, what is consciousness? We can look to it from a purely scientific aspect. We can look to it from a spiritual aspect. I think most people, when they hear consciousness, they associate it with spirituality.
Hmm.
Um, And it's kind of fascinating because is consciousness driven by feeling or is it driven by thought?
I don't think
And
it's either. I think what it is, and I've been trying to reiterate that as you speak about this, is it's when we're speaking from a state of being aware of our feelings and our even our spiritual connection. I think it's a really whole
a whole
reality.
aspect. So it takes into account both thinking
And
and
you've probably
feeling.
heard people talk and thought that person isn't very conscious,
Mhm.
right?
So you're saying consciousness is something about thought and feeling in
Yeah.
combination create something called consciousness.
Hmm.
And what's fascinating is there's botanists now in the plant world who are very openly talking about plants having consciousness. This is really kind of like new thought form coming out in science about plants.
I remember years and years ago, it was in the 60s, I think, where they were doing these plant things where this fellow trained his plants. If he touched them, the plant would collapse. If he was playing with that, and then if finally he got so if he left the room and sent back a message with his mind, the plant would collapse. And
Ah,
they were doing a lot of studies on consciousness and plants. I believe it
yes.
was the 60s or
And
this early.
so then that begs question because even if if we eat plants, do they have, and of course this is age old, debates, do plants have sensation, sensibility? Do they suffer when we harvest the plant? And I suspect, and I'd be curious to hear what Miracris has to say about this, but I suspect the plant has a way it doesn't feel pain in the same way we feel pain.
Yeah.
We
Well,
feel
you say what is
pain
pain, right?
because pain is an alert, 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 alert. That's what pain is for us. It's it's an alert system in our bodies. And with plants, I don't think they process the same way. But I'd be
Mhm.
curious to hear what Miracris has to say about this.
Shall we bring him in or shall we
Yeah.
wait for a while and chat a bit more?
No, no, no.
Okay.
Let's bring Miracris in.
It's a really interesting subject, though, isn't it?
Hmm.
All right, let's do some clearing. Let's just clear the room and ask everybody at home to send in their own light. It's funny. We are here. We are delighted to be a part of this discussion. For you understand that consciousness itself is different from different realms, different understandings, different levels of awake and awareness, or different vibrational realities that people or other animals live in all through the universes. Consciousness varies quite a lot, we would say. We have to say this, that it mostly gets freer and more expanded as you move through the galactic places with the galactic populations and so on, because
Yes.
they are aware of the distances between, oh, if you're in if you're traveling, they're very aware of the feelings, and this is probably a good example of consciousness, the feelings of changing your rapport with the earth energies and the rapport with a much more expanded energy flow. You understand? And many what you call ETs or aliens can be very adept at sensing and feeling those shifts that go on in great variation all over the universes, and you know that.
Mhm.
So we're saying it's very much an issue of where you are and whether you actually are, how to put this, that you are aware of, for example, the earth around you, the air around you, the waves of change around you. There's all these different forces that go on around the earth, and they vary through different planetary structures. Does that
Mm,
make sense? And
yes.
many beings
And
know where they are and why.
Miracus, can you describe what what it looks like, feels like, what it is with plant consciousness?
Interesting. What it what it looks like is variations on the vibrational
Hmm.
messages we were conducting a few minutes ago. Within them, they have a much more, you would call it a much more gentle frequency. Even the trees,
Hmm.
much more of a gentle frequency that is very susceptible to subtle changes all around them. So
Mm,
it is just consciousness, or you could call it a nervous system or the equivalent of a nervous system.
hmm. Hmm.
Those, one of the discussions would be about whether they hurt when they're cut down for dinner, vegetables, you understand?
Right, right.
But they're not, because it's interesting that there's a lift and a light in them that wants to participate in
Hmm.
life, you
Hmm.
understand? So in that
Hmm.
participation in life, that desire gives them satisfaction when they're taken in to be cooked, you see?
And it was once told to me by another master teacher, I would say, because at that time I was vegetarian, and I wanted to know what was the plight of animals, because animals, in a way, to me, have the pain response that humans do. And then I started to learn that animals, perhaps, and I want to ask you this, Mary Chris, if an animal is sensing their death is approaching, they have a capability of leaving their body. Is that
Yes, they.
correct?
Mhm.
They leave their body before they're slaughtered or killed. Is
The point that you're making is very good because animals have what they're called dumb, you understand? But the reality is that their sensitivity is much more practical than humans,
mm,
meaning if they know they're going to leave for whichever reason, even if it's to feed someone, they are able to evacuate their own bodies very quickly.
does that mean
And you watch, they will help others do that as well.
yes, yes? And does that mean then do they feel the pain?
The
Because
pain they feel
mhm,
is different than humans. They don't feel the pain of being is slaughtered. Is that what you're asking?
yes, let's talk
They
about
don't
that.
feel that pain because they've already separated from that part of their nervous system.
Ah,
They know it.
so,
There are some very brutal systems, excuse me, that wasn't entirely true because there are some very brutal slaughterhouses and so on where the animals are. Now, this is very interesting. The animals are too frantic
mhm,
and too aware of danger to be able to separate themselves from the fear.
right.
You see, when they're in a society which is accepting them as gifting, you see, and they're being treated with a kind of a respect, they just separate from their bodies when it's time.
Um,
But when they're afraid, and you understand what it's like to be panic stricken or in turmoil, it's
mhm.
very difficult for them.
Yes, and I want to say
It
I've
would be
had
nice to teach people to send huge lights to places where they're doing that.
yes, yes. And we know that I wonder to this point in time how many slaughterhouses were designed by Temple Grandin, who was given the Oscar for Best Documentary. She's a woman with
Autism. Mhm.
autism who her specialty was designing humane slaughterhouses. This is
Isn't it?
something that she gravitated to. And I'll have to look up and see how many of her projects are out there.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up because what you're speaking about is consciousness of it's consciousness. And what you're showing is that she, in her autism, was very conscious and probably still is of specific transitions in the lives of animals, of how they feel and how they can be dealing with various stressors. She could understand that better than most people that are fully sensing. You understand that?
Right. And I must admit, Mirkus, I've had two experiences in my life with death with animals where I was able to observe them leaving their bodies before the point of death. And the first one was with my beloved dog, Shasta.
Mhm.
She literally positioned herself when the veterinarian arrived. She actually sat down and she sat away from the veterinarian. She would not face her. It was very conscious the way she positioned herself.
Hmm.
And this is the same position that my beloved friend Kobe, the llama, who we've covered on the show, actually positioned herself in the same manner when we had to execute a firearm euthanasia with her because she was attacked by hunting dogs. And it was so obvious in both situations that that was going on. Absolutely. It was very conscious on both of their parts. that they positioned themselves in such a way and they released themselves before the point of before the point of death. So
And it's
they
so interesting, isn't it, Lori, that it's that increased stressor in the slaughterhouses that were so terrifying,
hmm
threatening,
hmm
that entirely changed the animal's awareness, which is a reminder of being a person as well. If we
hmm
let ourselves go into trauma and fear and panic and so on, we don't have any of the skills that we would normally have. You understand that?
right. We lose
We
our
don't have any
grounding.
skills, better skills for leaving, better skills for transitions, better skills for even transmissions. You understand?
I do completely.
Isn't that interesting? Because that's consciousness. They're conscious of various transitions, which sometimes people aren't.
Right. Absolutely.
Hmm. Very interesting.
Very fascinating. And I want to relay another story. I used to own a tree and plant nursery with trees and plants in Los Angeles, California. And I started having experiences with the trees and the plants in the morning when I would open the gate and walk in. They literally would be, it was frequency, it was frequency communication, and they would literally connect with me about their needs. And they all needed something, whether it was water, fertilizer, um, to be dry, to be wet. And it was really, really fascinating. And my business partner at the time, she was so freaked out by the amount of communication from the trees and plants. She would say to me, you open in the morning, okay? You open in the morning. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Well, go ahead.
No, I that was it. was the was the thing about communicating with plants and trees, and not just that they have consciousness, which they do, but they're also communicating. And can you speak a little bit about the communication of trees and plants? What level do they communicate on?
I'm not sure what level they communicate on, but they do have ways, and you know this, being a plant person. Many's the time you've raised plants, have you not?
Mhm.
And you can feel the frequencies that they emanate are ones that you can feel mostly in the heart area, the chest. You notice that?
Yes.
And they back to your friend, I didn't quite comprehend when you said open.
Oh,
Um,
she was so freaked out by the amount of activity that the tree that at the levels at which the trees and plants, we had hundreds, right? That they were trying to communicate in the morning their needs to us because they were dependent on us for to a certain level for their survival and their well-being. And it got to a point where she was like, I can't deal with it. I need you to
but you know
open.
exactly why that is, as people at home do, because when people are afraid and don't sort of move into the meditation of it, it becomes spooky, right?
Yes.
And so, but you don't have that problem. So you probably taught her well, hopefully, yes.
I ended up buying her out of the business. And she left. But but anyways, anything else, Mary Chris, you want to say about evolution and
Yes, the evolutionary qualities of humanity are, we would say, brimming or not burgeoning, brimming at this time. And you will find more and more people. For example, when she was worried about this, the constant noises and so on, and whatever was required of her as the day began, that blocks her ability to read the messages, you see?
Mhm.
It's our nature that opens to these things. And you see, it's not a special gift as much as it is a sort of a degree of peacefulness at times. So you can allow yourself to enjoy that. But many people are freaked by it, as you said, right?
Mhm.
And that will always block the truth.
Wow.
And the thing is, it's what's going to happen. Oh, here's some predictions we'd like to make, which is there is so much trauma all around your planet right now. It's very, very terrible. And we have to say that, well, I say terrible because it's everywhere and it's killing children. And so, you know this. And so the art of learning to pay more attention to the emanations of trees and flowers and anything that's up to goats or any living beings that are not human beings. The art of paying attention to what they have to do requires a lot more, we'll call it meditation or stabilizing the sensing and feeling in humanity, which is terrific. It's very possible to sense and feel exactly what's going on. Even the ripples, you notice that we're speaking right now of the land, the
Mhm.
ripples that are going through the land, because the land itself is speaking of the dangers of certain activities that are going on in and around it. So there's a great cacophony of frequency interactions going on. Everything has its language, everything living, that is. You understand?
Yes.
And if people are
Beautiful way
afraid
to
of it,
put it.
there's no way.
Yeah. Yeah. And so let us become conscious when we eat
Well,
our,
you're a leader
our
that way,
food. When we eat
very
our
much.
food, let's give thanks to the beautiful salad that we're participating in,
Mhm.
eating, and the beautiful um, elements within the salad that have given their lives. And it sounds like enjoy. Some of these plants are giving their lives out of service and enjoy
Mhm.
for helping to feed us.
And it doesn't seem like they have the normal range of emotion. I call it normal because of humanity, but they don't have the full range of emotion that way.
Hmm.
Their gift is to fuel life. See, that's their big gift. It's not to sustain themselves per se,
Right.
because they grow fast. You know how they move through and then they return and then they move through again and they
They
become full.
replenish. Yeah,
It's,
and they replenish. It's amazing.
and one of the things that happens with people like you is you become almost hushed with appreciation. And
Mm,
that is again a frequency which returns the respect to whatever the plant is or the animal or the dirt.
mhm,
The earth needs a lot more love than it's had. Do you understand that?
mhm, mhm. Yes, and I would like to just leave this with saying, let us give thanks for the food that we're consuming, whether it's plants or animals, and the beautiful service that they are in to sustain us. So
Agree. We agree.
blessings.
Blessings to all the globe, the whole globe. It needs to be healed from the raucous behavior of humanity, for example. And just even sending, as you put it, Lori, sending those thoughts and those prayers around the world is very, very important. It will actually touch some parts of the world and soften the anxiety that's there. Who would have thought that the dirt is anxious, but it is.
Mm,
You can understand that.
yes.
And you're right. And the more you pray into whether it's plants or weather or animals or one another. The higher the frequency is, and the easier it is for it to sustain itself.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mary
Thank you.
Chris. Okay. Blessings.
Blessings.